Another year is about to begin, and before the numbers change, the heart deserves a pause. Not to celebrate, not to rush ahead, but to reflect honestly. How did this year leave you inside? Not in achievements or plans, but in sincerity, intention, and closeness to Allah. Time moves forward whether we are ready or not. Years pass quietly, carrying our choices with them. Some moments we regret, some we learned from, and some we never truly faced. Entering a new year without reflection is easy, but entering it with a clean heart takes courage. A clean heart does not mean a perfect past. It means a heart that is aware, humble, and willing to change. A heart that lets go of grudges, excuses, and delayed repentance. A heart that understands that another year is not guaranteed, and every beginning is a mercy. As 2026 approaches, this is not a reminder about resolutions or promises made in emotion. It is about intention, about what you carry forward and what you leave behind. Because when the heart is corrected, the direction of life begins to change. So before the calendar turns, take this moment seriously, because starting a new year with Allah does not begin with plans. It begins with a heart that is ready to return. Time moves forward quietly without asking for permission or offering reminders. Days pass, weeks disappear, and years turn over whether we are prepared or not. The arrival of a new year is not a promise that we will see another after it. It is simply an opportunity that has been placed in our hands. Treating time lightly often leads to regret later. Awareness turns passing time into meaningful moments. A new year does not arrive as a reward for survival. It arrives as a trust that must be carried carefully. Every day within it holds choices that shape the heart and direction of life. Assuming there will always be more time creates carelessness. Awareness reminds the soul that every moment matters. Responsibility begins with recognizing this truth. Time is one of the few things that cannot be stored or recovered. Once a moment passes, it never returns. This reality gives weight to every decision we make. Entering a new year with assumption dulls that weight. Entering it with awareness sharpens intention and focus. Awareness changes how you approach each day. It makes you pause before wasting hours on what brings no benefit. It encourages you to ask whether your time reflects your values. When time is seen as a trust, priorities become clearer. Distractions lose their power. Purpose begins to guide action. A new year often brings excitement and planning, but without reflection, those plans lack direction. Awareness requires looking back honestly before moving forward. It means acknowledging how time was spent and where it was lost. This reflection is not meant to shame, but to awaken responsibility. Growth begins here. Assumption whispers that there will always be another chance. Awareness reminds you that chances are limited. This reminder is not meant to create fear, but clarity. When you understand the value of time, urgency becomes healthy rather than anxious. Each day becomes an opportunity, not a burden. Seeing time as a trust reshapes daily behavior. Small actions gain importance because they accumulate. Moments of patience, kindness, and sincerity matter more. Awareness encourages consistency rather than bursts of effort. Long-term growth depends on this steady approach. A year can pass quickly when lived without intention. Awareness slows life down just enough to make it meaningful. It allows you to be present rather than rushed. Presence transforms ordinary days into purposeful ones. This is how responsibility is honored. Time entrusted to you carries impact beyond yourself. How you use it affects relationships, character, and future outcomes. Awareness considers this ripple effect. It reminds you that wasted time often leads to missed growth. Responsible use creates benefit that extends outward. Assumption often leads to postponement. Important changes are delayed because they feel uncomfortable. Awareness pushes action into the present. It asks why change must wait. A new year is not a reset button. It is a continuation that demands intention. When time is treated casually, regret follows quietly. Regret often arrives when opportunities are gone. Awareness protects against this by encouraging mindful choices. It teaches the heart to act while it can. Responsibility is exercised through timely action. A new year should not begin with empty optimism alone. It should begin with grounded understanding. Awareness balances hope with realism. It keeps expectations honest and effort sincere. This balance prevents disappointment and burnout. Responsibility toward time also includes rest and reflection. Awareness recognizes limits and avoids extremes. It understands that sustainable growth requires balance. Treating time as a trust does not mean constant pressure. It means thoughtful use. Each day of the new year arrives as a blank page. Awareness decides what is written on it. Without intention, pages fill with habits rather than purpose. Responsibility chooses meaning over routine. This choice shapes the entire year. When you enter a new year with awareness, you walk more carefully. Words are chosen thoughtfully, actions are measured, and priorities are clear. Time becomes a companion rather than an enemy. This mindset turns ordinary days into valuable opportunities. A new year is not evidence of endless time ahead. It is a responsibility placed before you right now. Awareness honors that responsibility by living deliberately. Assumption wastes it by taking it for granted. How you begin shapes how you continue. Plans give structure to the future, but they do not guarantee fulfillment. A person can have detailed goals and still feel lost if the heart is unsettled. What you carry inside influences every decision you make along the way. Intentions, emotions, and beliefs quietly guide direction. Without inner clarity, even the best plans lose their effectiveness. The heart determines how the journey unfolds. The state of the heart affects how goals are pursued. A heart filled with anxiety chases success differently than a heart grounded in peace. Motivation can come from fear or from purpose. When fear leads, progress feels heavy. When purpose leads, effort feels meaningful. Direction depends on what drives the heart. Carrying unresolved emotions impacts decision making. Regret, resentment, or pride can distort judgment. Plans made from a heavy heart often reflect that weight. Addressing what is carried internally allows plans to align more clearly with values. Inner clarity strengthens external direction. A heart burdened by comparison loses focus. Goals become shaped by others rather than personal purpose. This leads to dissatisfaction even when achievements are reached. Carrying contentment protects against this trap. Contentment anchors direction regardless of outcome. Planning without examining the heart risks repeating the same mistakes. Patterns persist when inner issues remain unaddressed. A clean heart allows new plans to take root differently. Change begins internally before it becomes visible. Direction shifts when the heart is corrected. What you carry determines resilience. A hopeful heart responds to setbacks with patience. A bitter heart reacts with frustration. Goals alone do not build endurance. Inner strength sustains effort when plans face obstacles. Carrying gratitude changes how plans unfold. Gratitude fosters appreciation for progress rather than obsession with results. This mindset reduces pressure and increases consistency. Direction becomes steady instead of rushed. Gratitude keeps the heart aligned during the journey. Ambition driven by ego feels different than ambition guided by purpose. Ego seeks validation while purpose seeks growth. The heart chooses which one leads. Goals follow that choice. Direction depends on sincerity rather than ambition alone. A heart filled with trust navigates uncertainty calmly. Plans may shift, but direction remains steady. Without trust, unexpected changes feel threatening. Carrying trust allows adaptation without panic. Direction stays intact even when plans adjust. Unexamined intentions can turn goals into burdens. When the heart seeks approval, achievement never satisfies. Addressing intention lightens the load. Plans become tools rather than sources of pressure. Direction improves when intention is refined. What you carry also influences how you treat others along the way. A heart heavy with frustration affects relationships. Relationships shape opportunities and growth. Direction is not traveled alone. Inner state impacts the path taken. A clean heart brings clarity to priorities. Some goals lose importance when the heart is aligned. This clarity simplifies decision making. Direction becomes purposeful rather than scattered. Less energy is wasted. Plans focus on outcomes, but the heart governs process. The process shapes character. A heart aligned with values makes the process meaningful. Direction reflects who you are becoming, not just what you are achieving. Carrying peace allows patience with slow progress. Without peace, delays feel unbearable. Patience sustains long-term effort. Direction remains consistent even when results are delayed. The heart determines endurance. Inner honesty prevents self-deception. Goals set without honesty often serve the wrong purpose. A truthful heart adjusts plans when needed. Direction stays aligned with reality rather than illusion. The plans can change at any moment. The heart remains with you in every situation. What you carry influences every step. A settled heart leads to a steady direction. Growth begins by caring for the heart before building the plan. Unresolved emotions settle into the heart quietly, often unnoticed at first. What begins as a small hurt or disappointment can grow heavier over time. The soul carries these feelings into every decision, every interaction, and every plan. Progress slows when the heart is burdened. Growth requires space, and unresolved feelings occupy that space. Without release, the heart moves forward reluctantly. Resentment has a way of lingering beneath the surface. Even when life appears normal, bitterness influences reactions and thoughts. It drains energy and patience without asking permission. A heart weighed down by resentment struggles to feel peace. Letting go is not approval of harm, it is protection of the soul. Envy quietly redirects focus away from personal growth. Instead of building, the heart compares. Comparison steals gratitude and distorts perspective. Progress becomes measured by others rather than values. A heart trapped in envy remains restless. Release restores clarity and contentment. Regret often ties the heart to the past. Memories replay, mistakes resurface, and self-blame persists. While reflection is useful, dwelling becomes harmful. Progress requires movement forward, not constant return to what cannot be changed. Releasing regret opens space for learning. Unresolved hearts resist change because pain feels familiar. Holding on can feel safer than facing uncertainty. This attachment limits growth. Letting go requires courage. Courage allows the heart to step into new possibilities. The soul was not designed to carry emotional weight indefinitely. Prolonged burden leads to exhaustion. Exhaustion affects motivation and clarity. Releasing what weighs the heart renews energy. Renewal is essential for progress. Unaddressed emotions also affect relationships. Reactions become guarded or defensive. Trust weakens when the heart is closed. Progress in connection requires openness. Release softens interactions and restores understanding. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let pain control the present. The heart can remember without being ruled by memory. This distinction allows healing. Healing creates forward movement. Progress stalls when emotions remain unnamed. Awareness is the first step toward release. Recognizing resentment or envy brings honesty. Honesty invites change. Change begins with acknowledgement. Holding on to unresolved feelings often creates inner conflict. The heart wants peace but clings to pain. This tension drains focus. Release resolves the conflict. Peace allows progress. Unresolved hearts often resist guidance. Advice feels intrusive when the heart is wounded. Letting go creates openness. Openness allows learning. Learning fuels growth. Release is not a single action, it is a process. Some days the heart lets go, other days it struggles. Patience with this process is essential. Gradual release leads to lasting freedom. Emotional baggage affects decision making. Choices made from hurt differ from those made from clarity. Progress requires decisions rooted in balance. Releasing pain restores that balance. Unresolved feelings can distort self-image. The heart begins to define itself by past experiences. This limits potential. Release allows the heart to redefine itself. Growth becomes possible again. Letting go also restores focus on what truly matters. Energy once spent holding pain becomes available for growth. The soul feels lighter. Lightness encourages forward movement. Release requires humility. Admitting the need to let go acknowledges vulnerability. Vulnerability invites healing. Healing strengthens the heart. Progress is not always visible immediately after release. The heart adjusts gradually. Trusting the process prevents discouragement. Patience supports transformation. Unresolved hearts often fear release because it feels like loss. In reality, release is gain. It restores peace and clarity. Progress follows naturally. Letting go also strengthens resilience. The heart learns that pain can be faced and released. This confidence supports future challenges. Growth becomes sustainable. Release aligns the heart with purpose. It removes obstacles that slow movement. Direction becomes clearer. Progress accelerates when the path is clear. Unresolved emotions are silent barriers. They block progress without obvious signs. Releasing them is an act of care and worship. A heart that lets go moves forward with strength, clarity, and peace. Repentance opens a door that nothing else can. It does not ask you to pretend you were never wrong, nor does it demand a perfect past. It invites honesty, humility, and return. A true beginning is not built on bold promises, but on sincere acknowledgement. When the heart turns back truthfully, renewal begins quietly. This return carries more power than any plan made in emotion. It is the start that actually lasts. Promises are easy to make when motivation is high. They sound strong and feel hopeful, but they often fade with time. Repentance is different because it is rooted in truth, not enthusiasm. It recognizes weakness and seeks help beyond the self. That recognition anchors change. A heart that returns honestly is already moving forward. True renewal requires facing reality without excuses. Repentance removes the need to justify mistakes. It replaces defense with responsibility. This shift clears the heart of resistance. When resistance falls, guidance enters. Returning honestly creates space for real transformation. Repentance is not a single moment. It is a posture of the heart. It keeps the soul flexible and aware. Each return strengthens humility. Humility keeps the heart teachable. A teachable heart grows steadily. Starting over often feels overwhelming because it imagines rebuilding everything at once. Repentance simplifies the process. It focuses on direction rather than distance. One sincere turn changes the trajectory. That change is enough to begin. True repentance is quiet and personal. It does not seek attention or approval. It seeks alignment. When alignment is restored, actions follow naturally. Renewal begins internally before it appears externally. Promises rely on self-confidence. Repentance relies on truth. Self-confidence fluctuates, but truth remains steady. A heart grounded in truth is not easily shaken. This steadiness supports lasting change. Returning honestly also heals guilt. Guilt loses its grip when acknowledged and released. Repentance transforms guilt into motivation. Motivation rooted in humility is sustainable. It pushes gently rather than forcefully. Renewal through repentance does not erase memory, it reshapes it. Past mistakes become lessons instead of chains. The heart learns without being trapped. Learning fuels progress. Repentance teaches patience. Change unfolds gradually after return. Expecting instant perfection creates pressure. Repentance removes that pressure. It allows growth to happen step by step. True renewal does not announce itself loudly. It begins with internal calm. The heart feels lighter, more focused. This calm supports consistency. Consistency builds momentum. Returning honestly also restores hope. Hope grounded in truth does not disappoint easily. It survives setbacks. Each stumble becomes another reason to return, not to quit. Repentance aligns intention with action. When intention is corrected, effort becomes meaningful. Meaning sustains energy. Energy directed properly leads to progress. Promises often focus on outcomes. Repentance focuses on direction. Direction matters more than speed. When direction is right, even slow movement is valuable. Returning honestly reduces fear of failure. Failure becomes part of the journey, not its end. Repentance provides a way back each time. This safety encourages effort. Renewal through repentance invites mercy into the process. Mercy softens mistakes and encourages return. A merciful approach keeps the heart engaged. Engagement leads to growth. True repentance requires sincerity, not perfection. Sincerity keeps the heart open. An open heart receives guidance easily. Guidance directs renewal. Repentance also strengthens self-awareness. Awareness prevents repetition of the same mistakes. Learning becomes intentional. Intentional learning supports improvement. A heart that returns honestly becomes resilient. It learns how to recover, not just how to avoid error. Recovery skills matter for long-term growth. Renewal that begins with repentance does not depend on circumstances. It can happen at any moment. This accessibility keeps hope alive. Hope fuels continued effort. Repentance is the truest beginning because it is rooted in reality. It does not deny the past. It transforms it. Returning honestly creates a foundation that promises cannot. From that foundation, real renewal grows steadily and sincerely. Accountability begins with the courage to pause and look inward. Before blaming circumstances or people, the heart must be willing to examine itself honestly. This pause creates space for clarity. Without it, life moves forward on autopilot. Reviewing yourself interrupts old patterns. It replaces habit with awareness. Clarity does not come from avoiding mistakes, but from understanding them. When you reflect on what went wrong, lessons surface naturally. These lessons guide future decisions. Ignoring reflection allows mistakes to repeat quietly. Accountability breaks that cycle. Self-review is not about self-criticism. It is about self-awareness. Awareness brings understanding without shame. When the heart understands its tendencies, it can adjust direction. Adjustment prevents repetition. Growth depends on this process. Looking back before moving forward gives perspective. It reveals patterns that were invisible while living through them. Repeated mistakes often share the same root. Accountability helps identify that root. Addressing it changes outcomes. Without accountability, intention alone is not enough. Good intentions fail when habits remain unexamined. Reflection exposes habits that sabotage progress. Once seen clearly, they can be replaced. Clarity empowers change. Reviewing yourself requires honesty. Honesty removes excuses. Excuses protect comfort but delay growth. Accountability accepts responsibility without despair. This acceptance opens the door to improvement. Clarity simplifies decision-making. When past errors are understood, future choices become easier. The heart recognizes warning signs early. This recognition prevents falling into the same traps. Wisdom grows through reflection. Accountability also builds humility. Admitting mistakes lowers pride. Lowered pride increases openness to guidance. Guidance brings correction. Correction leads to better outcomes. When the year begins without reflection, old mistakes follow quietly. They appear in new forms but carry the